Welcome everybody. This is the Thursday, May 19th, 2022 regular village board meeting. First item is call to order, which I'm doing, and a roll call. Could we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Hallwax.
Here.
Trustee Listner.
Here.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Here.
Trustee Onderdunk.
Here.
Trustee Rubin.
Here.
Trustee Vree.
Here.
We're all here. We have a quorum. We are live streaming this meeting and have posted the links to that live stream on the village's social media pages. We'll make the recording available on the village's YouTube channel following the conclusion of tonight's meeting. We're meeting in person, but you see when we're not talking, a lot of us up here will be wearing masks, and we encourage you to do so. It'll be safer. Thanks, everybody. The second item on the agenda is consideration of the minutes from the last meeting. They've been circulated in the packet, and they're online. There are minutes for the Committee of the Whole on April 21st, and the regular board meeting also on April 21st. Are there any comments, and if not, is there a motion to approve them?
Second.
Okay, we can do a voice vote. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
The motion carries. Okay, the third item on the agenda is public comment. This portion allows for those in attendance to address the board regarding non-agenda items. If you have public comments concerning an agenda item, save it until we get to that point. And if you have any comments, they should be limited to 3 minutes, and I'll be keeping track of that. Are there any public comments on non-agenda items? I don't see any, so that takes care of the third item. The fourth item on the agenda is report of committees. And the first first committee is the Committee of the Whole, and I'll report on that. We just completed that, and we had a discussion on 3 issues. First, we discussed automated license plate reader technology in order to better improve crime prevention. We then had a discussion about private lead water service replacement. And finally, we talked about a draft urban forestry management plan. So that was our Committee of the Whole. The next committee is the Finance Committee. Trustee Vree.
Thank you. We had our meeting on Tuesday. It was a very short meeting. We just went through the village finances for the month. As the trend continues where village finances are very strong. General fund revenue is coming in ahead of plan, and general fund expenses are coming in on plan. Lots of talk of inflation in the economy, but so far so good for us.
Thank you. The next report is the Plan Commission. Trustee Listner.
Yes, so the Plan Commission met in April 27th, and we, at that time, recommended approval of a preliminary plat of subdivision for 550 Green Bay Road, and it's something that's actually on the agenda for this evening, so we will discuss that later.
538 Green Bay.
Excuse me?
538 Green Bay.
Oh, I have the wrong, sorry.
No problem.
Okay.
550's involved. 550's next door.
Okay, yes, sorry.
Thank you. The next report is the Golf Advisory Committee. Trustee Hallwax.
So the Golf Committee met on Monday. I unfortunately was not there. I was at a work event. But as you might guess, April was a terrible month for golf given the amount of rain and how wet the course was. The rounds played were the lowest in 15 years, minus the 2020 COVID year. And I believe still we didn't even get golf carts out until May, so that's also a significant hit, as many of the people that come to Glencoe would like to ride to play. So 800 rounds have been booked for local high school golf teams, which is fantastic, including Loyola Academy and the North Shore Country Day School. The Friends of the Glencoe Golf Club met and discussed strategies for including larger gifts. And we're excited that there's 3 new members, which is great because as we grow new members, they'll continue to hopefully find people that want to donate major gifts. And then yesterday there was an event at the golf course last night with 30 people attending to hear more about the project. And all 30 people had shown previous interest in donating to the course. And that's all.
Thanks very much. The next report is the Sustainability Task Force. Trustee Mulvaney.
Yes, of course, the Sustainability Task Force continues to endeavor to make Glencoe the most desirable and sustainable community in the galaxy. What does that mean? That means that we are helping to make Glencoe a more livable place, a place where property values are maintained, a place that remains beautiful, a place that harbors both ecology and humanity in a balance. Recently, what we've done is, hopefully you all engaged in the event we held over the weekend, the reuse and recycle event. I don't have numbers yet, but perhaps they're coming soon maybe, for the types of materials that we kept out of the landfill, which is where things will be going when we put them out on the curb. All right, those go straight to a landfill. So the Sustainability Task Force has, as you all know, over the past few years, tried to divert as much as we can for reuse purposes. So I think we had 6, maybe 7 stations out there this weekend to collect materials that otherwise would go fill a big pile. Another thing we've been doing is looking to engage with our student body more often and more meaningfully within the task force. So some new students coming on board and finding roles and projects for them to engage with and let them explore their passion and define what it means to be sustainable in Glencoe. And finally, we've got some new members or I should say, new faces joining and participating in our task force, other volunteers that have been interested in what we're doing, and we really welcome anyone who's interested in participating to join the effort and contribute in whatever way you can. And if you cannot attend the meeting, well, why not contribute to sustainability anyhow? Just do it, right? We all know some of the very basic, simple things we can do. Ride your bike instead of drive a car. Don't purchase things that you're going to throw away. Minimize packaging. There's just an unlimited number of things you can do which just simply makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense, it's probably not sustainable. So don't do it. And that's on my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next report is on the Council for Inclusion and Community. Trustee Rubin.
Thank you, Mr. President. We meet the first Wednesday of the month, and our next meeting is the first Wednesday of June. I encourage everyone to participate. Last month's, or earlier this month's meeting, unfortunately, we had to spend some time talking about the anti-Semitic flyers that were distributed, and we were all very grateful for the village's president's response to that. On a more positive note, we spent some time talking about Pride Month and recognizing that here in Glencoe and what we'll be doing, and some activities in regard to that. We talked about other outreach activities that the council has as we continue to work on just building recognition and of the council's existence and what we do within Glencoe, and having more outreach at different events, especially during the summer, when there are things going on and we can participate in those. We talked about our continuing speaker series, and in fact we're talking about working with the library perhaps to co-sponsor some speakers. We talked about possibly working out our logo a bit, again, in the outreach category. So it was a very busy meeting, went long, and I imagine the June meeting might also be another busy and productive meeting. And again, I encourage everybody, it's the first Wednesday of the month. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Rubin. Last but not least, the Historic Preservation Commission. Trustee Onderdunk.
Okay. The Historic Preservation Commission met on May 3rd. I unfortunately was not able to make that meeting, but I did have a follow-up meeting with Peter Van Vetchen, who is chair of that committee. The committee continued to review the recommendations to the board to enhance our historic preservation program. What they are doing is working to create a priority list of activities. Some are relatively small and can be implemented immediately. Others will take some more ongoing consideration and perhaps even some legal review. One of the things that did come out of that meeting, though, was a thought about having a joint meeting with sustainability based on the tenet that the greenest building already exists. And so something that we're starting to think about how we can work with some of our other boards and commissions and encourage historic preservation. One of our, of course, recommendations is just to change the thrust from just historic preservation to preservation, kind of broadening our mandate a little bit. In addition, we reviewed the demolition application for 501 Washington and they decided not to comment on that particular proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that report, Trustee Onderdunk. Next item on the agenda is the report of officers, and first the village manager's report. Village Manager Crowley.
Thanks, President Rowan. Just a few things, but I think some really good things to be able to talk about this evening. The first of which is to welcome our new Assistant Finance Director, Margaret Schwartz. Margaret, we are pleased to welcome Margaret to our team. She started a few weeks ago now and comes to us after over 13 years with the Village of Glenview. She carries a wealth of skills that we've already put hard to work here in Glencoe. The board's going to see her a lot as we get started with our budget process this summer. But she's going to be an integral part of our financial management operations, including oversight of risk management, purchasing and payroll, and will play, as I mentioned, a large part in the development of our annual budget. So welcome, Margaret. We're so glad you're part of the team. Some of the members of the board got to meet her at the Finance Committee meeting virtually, but she is a real person, not just the box on a screen. So welcome, Margaret. We're glad you're here. So you may notice a few extra folks in the room this evening. We've got the public safety shift here because May is the month to celebrate municipal employees. It is not something we necessarily always recognize at the May board meeting, but I think this year, particularly because of the week that the board meeting falls, it's a good opportunity. The week of May 15th to the 21st is actually Police Week, it's EMS Week, and it's Public Works Week. So I want to talk a little bit about each of those parts of our organization and give the board an opportunity to see some of those folks and to thank them, as I will, this evening for their service. So I'll start with Police Week. The week of May 15th to the 21st is known nationally as National Police Week, which was created in 1962 after President Kennedy signed Public Law 87-726. The law designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and stated that the week in which the day falls should be National Police Week. Every year, the national law enforcement officers organize a memorial service to honor police officers who lost their lives in the line of duty. I think we all know that police work can sometimes be a thankless job. This week is a great time for our community to reach out to their favorite public safety officer, all of whom work hard around the clock to keep our community safe, and to say thank you to them. And I hope that our residents and those in our community do reach out, wave, and say thank you to each of you. I asked Chief Lewandowski to put together some comments, and he pulled together some really, I think, thoughtful words that were developed describing National Police Week and the 3 reasons why it's important. The first is the fallen need to be remembered. National Police Week allows us to honor the police officers who've lost their lives or limbs in the course of duty. It allows the country and the village to honor their sacrifice, remember their good deeds, and show support for their families. The second is police officers risk their lives every day. This goes without saying, but I think it's something that's important for us to remember. Police officers put themselves in dangerous situations constantly in service to others. And last, it's all about support. At the heart of it, National Police Week is all about support. Police officers get to honor and mourn their lost partners and colleagues. The police force shows its support for the families of lost officers, and all the rest of us get the opportunity to support the police by appreciating them and the work that they do. As I should have said early on, we're unique here in town, where our police officers are firefighters and paramedics, and that doesn't mean that they spend any less time being focused on any one of those individual responsibilities. And especially these days, I just wanted to say thank you to our public safety officers for the work that they do in the police service, and the work that they do to keep our community safe in that effort. So thank you for that. And I also want to acknowledge that it's National EMS Week. And so before we acknowledge you for police, we'll go through this, because I think this is another really important aspect of why we celebrate you. In 1974, President Ford authorized EMS Week to celebrate EMS practitioners and the important work that they do in our nation's communities. National Emergency Medical Services Week brings together local communities and medical personnel to honor the dedication of those who provide the day-to-day life-saving services of medicine's front line. Every day, emergency medical service providers put the needs of their communities above their own as they respond to crises, treat injuries, and save lives. Their heroism has been on full display throughout the COVID pandemic, as resilient EMS workers here in Glencoe and across the country have provided essential care to all Americans. This year's EMS Week theme, Rising to the Challenge, pays tribute to the brave frontline professionals who work tirelessly to help their fellow Americans get immediate medical attention in their hours of greatest need. During EMS Week, we share our appreciation for the selfless EMS professionals who provide those life-saving services every day and risk their lives each time they answer the call to service. We also honor the EMS providers who've made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty to protect civilians. Our nation owes a tremendous debt of gratitude, and our community does as well, to these heroes and their loved ones. And I just want to add that, in particular, these last 2.5 years, I think, have shown the value and importance of the training that our officers get in service to our community as paramedics. It is equally difficult work for different reasons, and it warrants recognition. So thank you to each of you for the service that you provide to Glencoe, to our broader community. We appreciate it more than we can say, and glad to be able to say it out loud to you tonight. So thank you. As I mentioned, it's also National Public Works Week. So National Public Works Week is now in its 62nd year, recognizing public works professionals who each help to keep our communities strong by designing, building, operating, and maintaining our infrastructure for transportation, water, wastewater, and stormwater treatment, public buildings and spaces, parks and grounds, emergency management and preparedness, solid waste, and right-of-way management. Public works professionals are also first responders, and they often get to work sometimes before other first responder partners, and then after, to restore essential services whenever there's an emergency affecting public services. Public works professionals are what make our communities great places to live and work. I think we can all be grateful in this community for the tremendous public works staff that we have here in Glencoe, who work so very hard every day to keep our community beautiful and functional. It's really easy, I think, to take for granted a properly flushing toilet, clean water every time you turn on a tap, or a clear roadway in the middle of a snowstorm. But these are just a few of the quiet but critical functions maintained by our public works team. I want to thank them, each of them, for what they do. The Committee of the Whole was focused on a pretty significant portion of our public works workload, and yet just scratches the surface. And I'm grateful to the team, and particularly to our leadership for all that they have done and continue to do for our community as we as we adapt our operations, as we upgrade our systems and our infrastructure, and keep doing what we do so well. So thank you to all of our Public Works team as well. And there's one more week. I told you, May is the month that we celebrate public service and municipal employees. The first week of the month, May 1st to the 7th, was Public Service Recognition Week. And there are some pictures that are up on the screen, in addition to a bunch of other great pictures of our team at work, that we're talking a bit about what our public service means to the individuals who provide those services to the community. If you haven't seen the social media posts, hopefully you'll take a few moments to navigate over to Facebook or Instagram and take a look at those pictures. I think it goes without saying, but we really do have the best team, and it's continues to get better every day. So I'm grateful to everyone, and as I said, we don't often celebrate May in the way that we did tonight, but I think it's an important opportunity for us to jump up and down and say thank you for what everybody does. Okay, couple more quick updates for the board this evening. I wanted to just provide a brief COVID update. It's been a little while since I've done so, but our region of Chicagoland is now experiencing what is known as medium transmission levels of the COVID-19 virus. There remain no public health guidelines related to mask requirements. However, the CDC has updated and issued guidance that wearing masks in indoor public places is recommended. In Glencoe, according to the Cook County Department of Public Health, we've seen a 38% increase in cases in the last 2-week period, with 48 cases reported last week. As always, we encourage the community to exercise caution and good judgment as we continue to deal with the effects of the pandemic. Vaccine information remains on the village's website, and of course we encourage residents to keep vaccines and boosters up to date as we continue to work through this latest surge of the COVID-19 virus. I've, switching gears a bit, asked Dave Mao to provide just a quick update on some of our community investment projects that are underway in town, and just to give us an update on where things stand with those. So Dave.
Certainly. Just briefly, we've got 3 active projects and one that will get started here in another month. Our sanitary sewer manhole rehabilitation work, which is tied to our ongoing MWRD ICAP program compliance, is underway. That's work that's a little bit under the radar, but it's kind of up in the heights and ridges area of the village. And that's work to create more watertight manhole structures on the sanitary system, all intended to reduce that inflow into our sanitary system and then ultimately reduce basement backups. The downtown brick sidewalk paver restoration, this is year 5 of 5 years, and we will complete the entire downtown. Again, the function of this improvement is these are brick pavers that were installed with the streetscape program in 2001 and 2002 and have worn very well. And so we have systematically, block by block, just pulled those bricks up and taken care of some differential settlement and a few cracked bricks and the scourge of downtown sidewalks, which is chewing gum, replacing those bricks. But that work is in its final stage, and we're expecting that work to be done here before Memorial Day, which is a good thing for the businesses in the downtown. And then our maintenance street resurfacing program is well underway. As you recall, this was a contract awarded back in February. The contractor's going to be doing work on 21 different street segments, so totaling almost 6 miles. Work is underway on the concrete replacement, curb and sidewalk, mostly at the intersections to bring them into code compliance with the ADA. And then asphalt milling started today on the east side, and the work will kind of proceed clockwise through the area of the village, generally south of South Avenue. And we're really encouraging residents to track the weekly updates on our website and our social media posts. And then the storm sewer contract that was awarded recently, we're finalizing schedule with the contractor to start it on the Vernon and Sunset work probably by late June. So that's the update for the middle of May. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you. Last but not least, it's starting to feel like summer, and Sammy Hansel, the village's communications manager, is going to give you all a little bit of an insight into what's in store at least the month of May and June, rest of May and June. Sammy.
Well, warm weather is finally here, and summer is around the corner. We have lots of special events coming up. Memorial Day ceremony on Monday, May 30th at 11 a.m. in Veterans Memorial Park. If any of you are interested in helping speak at the event, I welcome any volunteers.
Trustee Hallwax said he would do it, and
Yeah.
we've already worked him into the script. So if there's anybody else who'd like to join, we have room for one more.
And then we have Farmers Market, which kicks off on Thursday, June 2nd from 1 to 5 in a new location on Village Court. The market has over 15 vendors so far, with more being added as we speak. And for opening day, we wanted to do something a little special to kick off the season, so we secured the original Rainbow Cone food truck that'll be there for the event, so we're very excited about that. And then Movies on the Green starts on June 10th with Encanto, and then we have an event in July and August as well. Sidewalk sale in June is held from the 24th to the 25th, and that's hosted by the Winnetka Northfield Glencoe Chamber of Commerce. And then finally, we have July 4th celebrations, which will take place over 2 days this year. July 3rd, we'll start off with Party in the Park, hosted by the Glencoe Park District at Lakefront Park, followed by the fireworks at 9 p.m. from Glencoe Beach. And then on the 4th, the Rotary Fun Run starts today, followed by family games in Cox Park, both hosted by Glencoe Park District. And then we have the parade through the downtown, which will step off at 1 p.m. And we highly encourage all of you guys to participate in that as well. It's always fun to have our board members walk in the parade or ride in the parade if you prefer. So that's it.
Thanks, Sammy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot happening, lots of good things. We're excited about it, and hopeful that the weather cooperates for all of our events that are coming up, and our work with the Park District, who's doing a lot this year as well. They will have a concert series that will align with the Farmers Market Days. Those concerts will take place at Cox Park immediately following the end of the Farmers Market. So look forward to celebrating this summer. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
I don't see any, so thank you, Village Manager Crowley, for that report. The next item on the agenda is the Village President's Report. That's me. And the first item is consideration of a proclamation declaring June 2022 as Pride Month in the Village of Glencoe. We previously circulated, and it's on the website, the proclamation doing that. And I would request a motion to approve the proclamation.
Second.
And I think we can do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. The next item on the agenda is a series of appointments and reappointments, and I think we can do this as a group.
You can read them all out,
Okay.
and then, yes, and omnibus.
So and I will read them. They're also published on the website. Reappointment of Gerald Wine to the Golf Advisory Committee, term expiring May 2026. Reappointment of Michael Laporte to the Golf Advisory Committee, term expiring May 2026. Reappointment of Bruce Huvard to the Plan Commission as a member and chair, term expiring May 2026. Reappointment of McAdam Glynn to the Police Pension Fund Board, term expiring 2024. Reappointment of our high school member, Catherine Procopi, to the Sustainability Task Force, term expiring May 2025. And appointment of Jonathan Pape to the position of Deputy Village Clerk. We're just adding on to the poor guy.
Seek a motion.
Is there a motion to approve all of these appointments? And we can do this by voice vote. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll deem one of those as a second. And let's have a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. And that is the President's report. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. And there are a series of items, A through H, which are published. I think I don't need to read these.
Correct.
They're published. Some of them deal with contracts, which we've discussed at length in Finance Committee meetings or other meetings, but all of these are published. Unless there are any questions, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
The motion's been made and seconded, and I think we need a roll call for this.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listener.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Yes.
Trustee Onderdonk.
Yes.
Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Vree.
Yes.
The motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. All right, the next item on the agenda, item 8, is regular business, and the first item of that is a resolution considering approval of a preliminary plat of subdivision and variations from the Village of Glencoe Subdivision Code for the property located at 538 Green Bay Road. This is the property that Trustee Listener mentioned, and I'll ask our Development Services Manager, Taylor Baxter, to present. And I think we may have some citizens talking, and if we do, we'll want to swear them in at that time. So, Mr. Baxter.
Thank you, President Rowan, members of the board. We're here tonight to consider a review of a preliminary plat of subdivision at 538 Green Bay Road. The applicant is proposing to subdivide what's currently a 26,400 square foot RC zoned lot into 2 new lots to replace the existing single-family home with 2 new single-family homes. Here's an aerial view of the property. It's 3 underlying parcels, as you can see outlined in red there. Functionally, these are one zoning lot, so for zoning purposes, they function as one single lot. You could not re-subdivide these today into 3 lots without going through a similar process with multiple variations. Right now, it's developed with one single-family home that's been there for decades. Unique part of this lot is that it does not have any street frontage, no direct street frontage. The area outlined in green is Park District property. This property is accessed from Green Bay Road through an easement across Park District property, which you can see to the east of the property outlined in red. So it's a pretty unique piece of property between Hawthorne and South. Here's a zoning map. Another unique part of this is that the Park District property between this subject property and Green Bay Road is actually zoned RD, as is the single-family home directly to the north at 550 Green Bay Road. This property is zoned RC. RC allows only for single-family homes. RD allows for single-family homes or, with the approval of a special use permit, multifamily. As you may remember, there was originally a proposal last year to rezone this property to RD, and an associated special use permit application that went to the Zoning Commission for a public hearing. That public hearing, the Zoning Commission unanimously voted to recommend denial of that rezoning and the SUP, and at that point the applicant withdrew it. Never got to the village board for final consideration. So it is a bit unique in that the access easement goes through property that's zoned differently than this property itself. The applicant is no longer proposing, there's no multifamily currently being proposed whatsoever. So as of now, the lot could currently be redeveloped with one single-family house. At 26,400 square feet, the allowable size of that house would be almost 7,000 square feet. We're going to talk a bit about this 40-foot buffer area, which is part of this subdivision proposal. It's not actually part of the subdivision. We'll get into more details of that in just a minute. With this 40-foot buffer area, which is currently proposed to be transferred to the property owner to the north at 550 Green Bay Road, it would reduce the size of this remaining property to 20,000 square feet, which would allow, without a subdivision, a redevelopment of one single-family home at about 5,386 square feet. Again, this went to the Zoning Commission last year. It was unanimously a recommendation of denial that was unanimous. There was considerable opposition to that proposal from neighbors. This proposal to subdivide this into 2 single-family lots went to the Plan Commission for consideration last month, at which it voted 6-2 to approve the plat as presented. And we'll get a little bit more into that discussion in just a moment. So this is a 4-part plat review process. The first part was the preliminary plat review by the Plan Commission, which was done last month. We're here at step 2 right now, which is preliminary plat review by the village board. The village board can either deny this plat, approve it as presented, approve it with conditions. If there's an approval of the preliminary plat, it will go back as a final plat to the Plan Commission for further review, another public meeting, and then another recommendation, and then finally back to the village board as a final plat for final review and final decision. So here is the a zoom in of the proposed preliminary plat. The subject property is outlined in green here. You can see 2 lots, proposed lots, 62.5 feet by 160, kind of towards the south end. Towards the north end of this property is a 40-foot wide piece of property, which we'll talk about in more detail in just a moment. Outlined in yellow is the access easement, which currently exists across the Park District property, providing access to Green Bay Road. This access easement, as it is currently located, meets in the middle of the property as it is right now. If the lots were subdivided per this plan, it would meet to the north of that dividing line between the 2 proposed lots. Outlined in red is a 40-foot wide piece of property that is currently proposed to be transferred to the property owner to the north. This is not something that needs Plan Commission or Village Board review. This is the adjustment of a property line between adjoining properties that does not create or increase any zoning nonconformity. Because of that, this is something that they could do administratively. It's a process that does not require review or approval. It does not require approval by the village board. It is part of this proposal by the applicant to provide some buffer area between the single-family home to the north and the 2 proposed homes to the south. We're also going to talk about this access easement when we get into the variations that are needed. Because of the location of this yellow access easement across Park District property, to access the southernmost of these 2 proposed lots, you need to get across the northernmost lot. This means you need a second access easement, a secondary access easement here, which is the cause of the need for 2 of the 3 variations that are needed for this subdivision, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So some applicable zoning code standards. The minimum required lot size in the RC district is 10,000 square feet. The minimum average lot width is 60 feet, and the minimum lot frontage in all residential zoning districts is 20 feet. This property does not have any street frontage, so to subdivide it into 2 new lots with no street frontage, you will need a variation to do that, to create 2 new lots that have 0 feet of street frontage, no matter what. So these 2 lots could not be subdivided under any circumstances without a variation. Let's get into the variation slide here. I'll go back to that chart in just a moment. So the first variation that's needed is the lot frontage variation, to create 2 new lots that have no street frontage. The next 2 variations are related to the need for this secondary access easement across that northernmost of the 2 proposed lots. So both of these lots, 62.5 by 160 equals 10,000 square feet. 10,000 square feet is the minimum lot size in the RC district. The minimum lot width is 62.5 is 60 feet. 62.5 feet exceeds the minimum lot width in the RC district. However, per the definition of lot size in the zoning code, you have to subtract access easements from that area. This access easement is about 500 square feet, which means that in that northernmost lot, you have to subtract that from the calculation of lot size, which means that although it's 62.5 by 160, it looks to anybody walking by like it's 10,000 square foot lot. Per the definition in the zoning code, it's about 9,500 square feet. Likewise, There is not, there's two slightly different definitions of lot width in our zoning code. The first one is lot width, which is the width at the front setback line. That's not what this is. There's another definition that's average lot width. Average lot width is lot area divided by maximum lot depth. The 60 feet minimum is average lot width. Lot area divided by maximum lot depth. So when you remove 500 square feet from lot area and you divide that by average lot depth, by maximum lot depth, technically the average lot width gets to about 59 point something feet here, which takes it slightly below the 60 feet average lot width minimum. That's why you need these second and third variations to subdivide this property as proposed. The first one would be needed no matter what. The second one are because that existing access easement hits hits north of the dividing line between the two proposed subdivided properties, which means you need that second access easement. So you go back to this slide, the required over there in the first column, 10,000 square feet lot size, average lot width 60 feet, and lot frontage 20 feet. Then you can see what's proposed here on the far right. So again, you look at this from above, it looks like it's 10,000 square feet and 62.5 meets or exceeds all zoning requirements except for the front lot line. But because of the definition of lot area in the zoning code, these two other variations are needed. So in order to approve this, they would need an approval of the subdivision and as well as approval of these three variations from the part of the subdivision code that says that the new lots have to meet all requirements of the zoning code. Public utilities are part of this review process. The preliminary plat phase right now, this is not a final complete project. It is still some aspects of this that need to be completed and formalized. Sanitary sewer, it's proposed through easements through properties to the north, through that buffer area, and then up to the north through the residential properties that way. Water is currently served by a line through Park District property to Green Bay Road. There's no formal easement on this existing water line. It's not under the access easement. It's to the south of that access easement. The applicant who is here tonight may be able to provide more information on how the discussions with the Park District are going about securing formalized access for this water easement. The proposal currently is to run this water line through a formalized easement in the same location as the access easement. Storm sewer, it is required to have storm sewer in place in order to have this subdivided. It's required by the subdivision code. There's no variation requested from this. Originally, we thought there wasn't any storm sewer connection. It appears that there may be an old combined service that's in place that's providing some service. The extent of that service is not particularly clear at this point, but they're also proposing storm sewer connection through out to Green Bay Road. So again, we're not going to take this back to the Plan Commission until all these things are formalized. Right now, again, this is a preliminary review, so some of these things are proposed but not complete. The front setback is another issue. Because there's no front lot line, the zoning code says that the village board can choose whatever setback it determines to be appropriate here. The plat currently shows a 30-foot front setback from the easternmost property line here, which is significantly further than 30 feet back from Green Bay Road. But 30 feet is the minimum required setback in the RC district, so it's kind of the default here. However, the board can reduce or increase that setback as determined to be appropriate because there's no front lot line here. The builder can come in and build further from the street than the minimum setback, but not closer. The Plan Commission discussed this but didn't make a recommendation to change this setback. The Park District representative on the Plan Commission did express some reservations about moving the houses too far forward towards the Park District property there. Public comment and staff recommendation. We've only received one public comment on this. That was from an adjacent property owner to the north with property on Hawthorne in favor of the proposal. This is in contrast to what we heard last year, which was significant public opposition to the multifamily project. So there's a big, significant difference in how this project's been perceived compared to the other one. Staff recommendation was presented to the Plan Commission. Staff's opinion is that the proposal meets the standards for subdivision, conditional to securing utility access and also dependent on approval of these three variations that are needed. The comprehensive plan, as we've discussed, doesn't always provide the clearest guidance for land use decisions. This is a land use decision. It does, however, instruct or give instructions to future decision makers that you should explore opportunities for creating a diversity of housing types. This is a location that's about a 7-minute walk from downtown, 7-minute walk from the train, 5-minute walk from Village Hall, the Green Bay Trail, et cetera. That went into this opinion that it meets the proposals that two homes here may be preferable than one larger home in this location that close to downtown. Related to the variations, this is a unique property with unique physical hardships which may justify the grant of those variations. There are things where if you were walking by on Green Bay Road, the typical person might not notice the difference between a 62.5 foot, 10,000 square foot lot with a access easement on it as opposed to one without it. Again, staff's not opposed to a front setback reduction of less than 30 feet, but the Plan Commission did not make any recommendation on that. Plan Commission recommendation voted, they voted 6-2 in April to approve the plat and variations as proposed. They did not make any recommendation on the front setback. In that discussion, the Commission didn't really express much concern about creating two lots. Instead, the discussion focused more on variations and the path, the best path forward for two lots on the property. There was a presentation of some options for adjusting that central property line to maybe make it to eliminate the need for that easement across that northernmost property, which could do away with those variations. If you lose that access easement, then you don't have those variations. However, in the end, by a 6-2 vote, the Commission decided this might create some additional problems, more problems than it might solve. And finally, next steps. If it's determined to be appropriate, the board may include some conditions of approval. If the preliminary plat is approved, it will go back to the Plan Commission. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the Plan Commission won't review a final plat until all the utility and access issues are resolved, and then it will return to the board for a final decision. The applicant is here as well. With that, I'll turn it back over to the board.
All right, thank you for that clear presentation. Let me think. So, the village has been looking at this in various stripes for a long time. And it seems to me, in light of this presentation and the ongoing discussions, we should move this along to the next step. If it ended up like this, it would be okay. They're asking for variations, but it's clear that the purpose of the zoning code is served even if these variations are granted. For example, okay, there's a park on Green Bay Road, and so none of this property is on the street. Well, we're not saying you can't develop it because there's going to be more green space in front of it. So the zoning code is served. Likewise, if the park district, and they get to decide this, do not want to move the easement for the driveway, then this is the only way it could be done. And the lots will still appear to comply even with this technical problem. The park district gets to decide. If they decide ultimately that they're okay with moving it, that'll eliminate the need for some of these variances. But if they don't, it still seems to me to be fine. So I think we should just move this along to the next step, so we don't create any more of a Dickinsonian Jardice v. Jardice situation with the property in town.
I don't know what those adjectives are.
Jardice and Jardice is the name of a case in a Dickens book that went on, it was British law during the 1800s, and the case went on for 85 years or something. And we don't want to approach that.
Lawyers love to keep things going on for 85 years of being doing that.
And here I am.
You set it up for a lawyer, Joe.
Here I am, you know, mostly an ex-lawyer saying, we're not doing that, we're not gonna be the cause of that here. So I think it's pretty straightforward that we should approve this. If this is the way it ended up, it would be okay. And of course, it's possible it might get better. But we don't get to make, the Park District, which has its own reasons, and they get to decide whether this easement gets moved or not. Anybody else want to talk about this, or otherwise?
I had a quick question. Does that 40-foot property transfer have any restrictions on it? Is that just wholesale passed over, or are there limitations what that can be used for?
From the village's perspective, it would become part of the single-family lot to the north. So it would be added to that, and you know, if it was ever used for construction, it would have to meet all zoning requirements at that point. So there's no.
It's too small to be its own lot.
That's right.
Yes, but I was just
Ironically, so the 40-foot parcel is zoned single-family. The actual single-family house to the north is zoned for multifamily. So
Right.
it's now got one, they're all combined, but nevertheless, the combined parcel has two different zoning.
That's right.
But said at some point, in the fullness of time, that will get dealt with. But it doesn't have to be dealt with when the current owners are living there as a single-family house.
I don't understand. Who has ownership, or will it continue after the subdivision?
There's going to be a transfer of ownership. This property owner is going to convey it to the owner at 550 Green Bay Road. Ultimately, the 40 feet will be owned, once it's subdivided, the owner of the 40 feet will be owned by in common ownership with the owner of 550.
Is he got a contract to purchase it, or
Yeah,
you don't know how that
we
will
think
work?
so.
But yeah.
It's a private transaction.
Okay. Okay.
It would become a single zoning lot with 550. It would become part of 550 and be considered a split zoned single zoning lot, which is not prohibited in our zoning code, but
Right.
a single
If they
zoning
wanted
lot.
to do something different on that lot, they may need to deal with the two different zoning.
That's right.
zoning districts.
There is not currently any proposed development on that lot. My understanding, and everything that I've heard from the applicant is that it's been discussed as an open buffer space.
Yeah, the question that was raised with me was the status of the land sale to the neighbor, and then basically what you're saying is that it's not happened yet, and of course it's contingent on the subdivision.
Yeah, I would imagine
That-
they are not selling until this issue gets resolved.
Yeah, okay.
Theoretically, they could just go do that,
They could.
That's
but
not
they
required.
would have no reason to do it
Yeah, okay.
but for this.
Okay. It's been brought to my attention that if the 40-foot strip were 3 feet narrower, 2 of the requirements would go away?
That is correct. If it was, I believe it's about maybe 4 feet narrower than 2 of the, at that point you would have enough land area to overcome that. You get the 500 something
Yes,
square feet
yeah,
back.
yeah.
That's right.
I'm not particularly comfortable with kind of a self-imposed hardship in this case, where, if they, lopped off 3 feet, they could still go ahead and move forward and not request as many variances. In general, I think we would want to try to keep the variances to the minimum. The second question I had.
But could I stop you there for a
Yes,
second? As I understand it, the current driveway is the 40 feet. Right?
That's not correct. No. The 40 feet is the part of the parcel that is being transferred to.
Oh, I'm sorry. The current, so, look, the neighbor wants to buy the 40 feet, and, I'm not sure how much we want to sort of get into the minutia of this, but I don't view the proponents as sort of creating this issue. The proponents got an objection from the neighbor to the north, which was successful in derailing their first plan. They're trying to do a second plan, and in order to accomplish that with the neighbor to the north, part of that is selling the 40 feet parcel.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I just,
wouldn't
the
call it
point,
selfie. I wouldn't call
it's not
that.
self. They're
Right. It's
they're
not-
dealing with an
It's not
objection that
self-imposed.
shut them down for months. So
okay.
you know, and there's no, in my view, there's no zoning interest served by that 3 feet difference, which will be invisible to the world, because the parcels, the 2 parcels that are left, will appear to the world to comply with everything.
Okay. The next question I have is about the agreement with the Park District. They need the Park District approval for utilities, is that right, in the right-of-way?
That they will need.
Got 'em now.
Huh?
They will need Park District, an agreement from the Park District, or if they cannot secure an agreement from the Park District from someone else to provide utility access. They've been working with the Park District for water and storm sewer access. I believe that the current proposal is in a different location than where it is now, but to formalize that, where I understand that they're heading is to try and formalize it within that access easement.
Yeah, well, I was contacted by the Park District, and they say there's no agreement at this point.
That's correct.
And
I do not believe there's an agreement at this point.
How can we guarantee that there will be an agreement? Or would it be a condition of the approval?
No, we don't need to do that because it's not, this is just a step. So it would have to go back to the plan commission, then it eventually comes back here. And if we were to stop it now because they're not done, like I said, in my humble opinion, we would just be creating this sort of never-ending thing. I think we should continue to move it along, and it will be incumbent upon the owners of the property at 538 to make the best deal they can make with the property.
We're dealing with something within the plan.
Yes.
So, two things. First, we're dealing with something within the plan. We're not dealing with issues of building permit that should be a separate issue that utilities will come into play then. But also, we are only at the preliminary plat stage.
Now, even at the preliminary plat stage, isn't there a question about access to utilities and that sort of thing? Isn't that one of the-
There is, yes, and that's been discussed with our engineering staff and we're working with the Park District. And at the preliminary phase, the idea is that we believe that they can secure that access. It is, if it was an impossibility, then we would say that it's impossible for them to do it. If they don't,
Can we give a conditional approval then for that, based on that future?
Well, essentially, you are, by approving the preliminary plat, you're sending it on to have the remainder of the
So the feeling is that rather than deal with it now and continue the negotiations, it'd be better just to move on and then come back and deal with it when it comes back for final
Well,
plat?
I think what staff has worked through in other similar circumstances is that at the preliminary review, there is a set of expectations that are laid out upon the petitioner that before something returns to the Plan Commission for final plat consideration and ultimately to the village board, that those situations are resolved, and that they are actually delineated on the final plat.
So they will need to be resolved before we will even consider the
final plat approval.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? may I?
We're going to hear from the applicant?
The applicant is here. I would note that the applicant has a very checkered career in that he previously was the village manager of Glencoe. I don't know if he's appeared before the village board since then, but I remember him as village manager. And I'm happy to hear from him, but I'm not sure he needs to say anything. And back in my world, when you were winning in court, you just, sat down. So, unless there are questions for him, I don't know if there's, like I said, if he's here and he can answer questions, but I don't know that he needs to talk at this one, and he's probably going to have more to say to the Plan Commission and maybe to us when and if it comes back. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Cummins, who I'm always happy to hear from?
Mr. President, can I just offer one point of clarification on where we are with the Park District? Sure. We did try to make a deal with them to move it, so it's centered in the middle of the two lots. We're a little dumbfounded as to why they wouldn't work with us on that, because it's 20 feet across their property, and it would have eliminated the variation needs. What we have come to a preliminary agreement on with them is that we are going to run, I see Howard, I can't help myself, 40 years later, that we are going to run the water and sewer, storm sewer, through that existing 20-foot easement. And as part of the quid pro quo,
Oh, it'd be underneath the driveway?
we are, and the quid pro quo, or the pound of flesh they're getting from us, is that we're going to fix their drainage problem that sits on both sides of that driveway. Which is what we had offered, but so we're paying the piper for that.
So, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, that helps.
And let me just say, the Park District, I understand the Park District's current position. I don't know if that's going to be their final position. I understand the applicant petitioner's position on moving it. But bottom line is, we don't get to do it, and we're not the experts on the Park District's interest in what to do with this park property. So, but that's exactly why I think we should move it along and see whether they have the same deal or a different deal. I will just say, based on what I have seen so far, I am comfortable approving this, because even if it ended up exactly as it is, I think it's likely we'll approve it. They're not going to do this project if they don't have water and sewer. So, with that, is there a motion to approve the preliminary plat of subdivision and variations for 538 Green Bay Road?
So,
Okay, I think,
and then I'll do a second.
all right, we have a motion and a second. I believe we need a roll call.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listener.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney.
I'd like to abstain since I know the owner.
Okay,
Trustee Underdunk.
I will vote yes with the condition that they continue to work with the Park District.
so can he do that?
Can he do
I don't think so.
I don't know.
He's explaining his vote, that's
Oh,
not part of,
okay.
that won't be
Okay.
part of the
Okay.
the
Okay.
motion.
Okay.
Are you still voting yes?
I'll still vote yes, and of
Okay.
course it'll be coming back to me anyway.
Yep,
Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Vree.
Yes.
the motion carries. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Cummins. Welcome back. The next item of regular business is consideration of a resolution authorizing the village manager to execute a license agreement with Valor Restaurant at 667 Vernon Avenue for the encroachment of a temporary outdoor dining area into the village right-of-way. And I'll ask Assistant Village Manager Sharon Tanner to present. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you, President Rowan, and good evening, members of the board. This evening before you is a request from Valor Restaurant for a licensing agreement to install an outdoor dining area and 4 parking spaces on Vernon Avenue, which they propose to have in place through October 3rd, 2022. We've been in contact with the Valor team as they've formulated their request. Their furniture and umbrellas that they're proposing to place in the dining area do conform with the appearance and design guidelines that the board implemented. And the Valor team is also making a request for the village to provide jersey barriers around the perimeter of the dining area. I'll walk through the components of Valor's request, and then we do have a representative from the Valor team here this evening, Mr. Rocco Rosillo, who will also be able to speak on the restaurant's behalf and answer any questions that you may have. In the aerial image is a highlighted section in blue. That is the perimeter at kind of a bird's eye view of where Valor is proposing to locate their outdoor dining area. This is a similar footprint to what they used last year for installation of their tent, though the area is reduced by 1 parking space. So their request this year is for the use of 4 parking spaces plus a triangular hashed off space in the northern section of the area. Again, that is a reduction from what they had in place last year.
Excuse me, quick question. Would the jersey barriers be within that marked area?
Yes.
Thank you.
Trying to advance my slide. Oh, there we go. Okay. I was trying to get the clicker to move. And this is a site plan sketch depicting, the lines may be a bit faint, but you can see where they've drawn the tables and chairs in the proposed seating area. They would look to square it off, which is similar to what they did last year. So the shape of the area itself would be slightly more rectangular than shown on the previous image, but I did want to indicate the spaces that would be closed off. As I noted, their proposal is to place tables and chairs and umbrellas in the dining space. The tables, chairs, and umbrellas do, based on the specifications provided, conform to the appearance and design guidelines that the village board created last month during our last discussion on the topic. With regards to the jersey barrier, the Valor team is requesting that the village provide jersey barrier to enclose the area. The village did provide jersey barrier in 2021 as a one-time COVID relief measure with no indication of whether the village would continue to do so in the future. There was an out-of-pocket cost that the village absorbed last year for the staff time and the purchase of the additional material. I've noted that in your packet this evening, or with this evening's meeting materials. And so if the village board is amenable to moving forward with a licensing agreement for Valor, we would request that you give us direction as to whether you would like to provide the jersey barrier again, and if so, if you would like to charge a fee to cover the village's out-of-pocket costs. I will note that if the licensing agreement request is approved, Valor will be invoiced for the licensing agreement fee of the 50 cents per square foot that the board approved last month. And that concludes the remarks that I have this evening. I'd like to introduce Mr. Rosillo, who can speak on behalf of the Valor team and answer any questions that you may have.
Sharon,
yes.
before you do that, I understand what the village did last year in the teeth of COVID. We still have COVID, but maybe the teeth aren't as frightening. We hope this year. Is the village paying for jersey barrier type things for any other restaurants in town?
No.
So and the obvious Guildhall, we're not paying for that.
We are not paying for that. Guildhall financed the construction of their crash wall, independent of the village.
Okay. Thank you.
Guildhall has 4, and Valor's requesting 4 as well, yes. There each has a little odd-shaped piece that's not a complete space, but 4 complete spaces plus their odd-shaped pieces.
So should we give the proponent, Valor, a chance to say what he wants to say and maybe answer some questions? And when you come up here, you're welcome. Thank you. We're glad you're in town. I would want you, though, to tell us why you think we should provide jersey barriers for you, and we have not done that for, Guildhall or others.
I can't really speak to that. I know the owner made that request. I could answer any questions you guys have. I also wanted to mention that we would get rid of the 3 curbside parking signs that we also have. So that would free up, instead of us having that, plus the 3 curbside parkings that Guildhall and other places have, we would just have the barrier itself out there.
Okay. All right, that's, and,
So instead of having, yeah.
okay, that's interesting. Village Manager Crowley, are there any issues you wanted to ask about, or are you?
No, I think staff understands the request. I think it's more if there are any concerns that the trustees have with the request as it's been made, or any perspective relative to the provision of the Jersey barriers. I think that would be what we would need direction on this evening, and then dependent upon that, we would finalize a licensing agreement between my office and the village attorney's office.
So let me just, I think, the Valor request is consistent with what we have approved for Guildhall, and we want to treat our restaurants well and fairly, with the one exception of paying for the Jersey barriers. And I would be troubled if we did that for Valor, because we haven't done it for others. And I appreciate, and I hadn't noticed that you're not taking the 3 temporary spots, which, because of our parking issues, seems positive. But we charge for 2 of those 3 spots, so I don't particularly view that as a big financial thing. So my current thought is that we should approve this, except for the piece involving paying for the Jersey barriers, which I think we shouldn't do. Trustees, does anybody have a different thought on that? I mean, the goal is absolutely not to disadvantage Valor, but rather to treat Valor the same.
I'm sure I'm the lone wolf here, but I would actually say pay for it for both of them. I mean, we slapped the 1% food and bev tax on them last year, but since since Guildhall's already paid theirs, I don't know how we figure that out.
There is, by the way, there are differing views on the board about whether we want to have restaurants in our parking areas. I was more skeptical than others. I was persuaded that we should certainly do it this year because there's still a pandemic. And in any event, my view may be a minority. And so I'm in favor of this, and I understand the point. Guildhall's already paid. I don't want to write them a check. And likewise, I don't want to pay for Valor. Anybody else?
I had concerns from the beginning about the use of Jersey barriers. I don't think that they are appropriate for the aesthetics. I don't think they were attractive. I think we got a lot of complaints about them. So I'm just curious. I thought we were going back to the whatever we call our aesthetic ordinance to not allow the Jersey barrier. So I'm surprised to see them here at all.
We did not make those components part of the appearance standards. What we did indicate was that we would not accommodate temporary or banquet-style tents in the downtown as part of the outdoor dining program. I think the Jersey barrier question relates to some degree as to whether or not the barriers themselves remain concrete or if they're painted. That certainly would be a component that could be reviewed as part of the appearance review of this. I think staff would recommend that there be appropriate paint and then similar reflective materials as what Guildhall has utilized to provide that visibility. But there isn't a specific provision that would disallow a Jersey barrier as a kind of a safety perimeter around the outdoor dining area.
So, I mean, they're about safety. And I think next year, maybe we have to have more of it. I mean, I'm sympathetic to your point of view, and in fact, I personally go maybe further in not wanting these as sort of a permanent fixture in our town. But if we're going to have them, we need to do something so that people don't plow their car into people while they're eating dinner.
Yeah, I think there's lots of options besides Jersey barriers, but I think, I appreciate your point.
Like, I understand the point. This is from my point of view, this is a one-year thing, and maybe we should start, thinking now and have staff start thinking now about, okay, are we doing this again? And if so, we're starting to think, okay, we're going to have a permanent thing in town, and how do we do that, preserving as many parking spaces as we can, and having it look as appropriate as we can make it, which would include other things to make it safe but attractive. And
I mean, there are components within the design guidelines that would accommodate greenery and planted materials, again, similar to what Guildhall has installed atop their crash walls. Now, their crash walls are poured in place. Those are obviously different than a Jersey barrier for that very reason. There's a pretty significant cost difference that they incurred on that. But there may be ways, certainly for staff to continue to work with Valor to soften the look of the Jersey barriers, if that's what they ultimately move forward with. There may be other alternatives, and staff can certainly work through that with them. Jersey barriers, as you said, are not the only way forward, and if there's a preference that staff approach this from a different angle, we certainly can do that.
So I have a couple of questions. So how many tables are you able to accommodate in your sidewalk area? So like how many people?
So it's 9.
So you have 9.
Right now, yeah, 9.
You have nine people?
9 tables.
So you have 9 tables on the sidewalk?
No, that's probably both.
Yeah, 9 tables on the sidewalk.
On the
No.
No,
I think
no.
the question was related to the sidewalk
The
seating
sidewalk,
that exists
Yeah,
today.
9
Not-
tables, miss. So I believe 2 of them are 2 couches, but then the rest are 3 to 4.
But
So
they're
it's
all
like
in
9 tables
but
on
they're-
the sidewalk?
They're not. They're all in the
No.
parking area.
I think Trustee Listener is asking about their current seating and the capacity on
Right.
the sidewalk, right?
Right, so I was just trying to understand. So you can do 9 tables on the sidewalk, and then you can do another, it looks like 8 tables or
Yeah, it's
whatever
gonna be 8 to
in-
6 tables inside.
in this area.
Yeah.
And are you open for lunch at all?
No.
So basically, this space then is out of use all day long until you open
Until
for
dinner
dinner?
time, yeah.
If I've got, that's the issue that I have. I mean, I think one of the things that we're looking for outdoor dining to do is, number one, help our restaurants, generate revenue, help pay places for eating tax, and also can contribute to the vitality of downtown. So it concerns me a little when we're taking 4 spaces out of our parking inventory, and they're just like dead space all
So
day
before
long.
the pandemic, we were open for lunch, but it's just been so hard to find enough staff to do lunch and dinner. So that's why, till we can get properly staffed and where we could have a rotating staff in and out day and night, we just can't do it. It's just been really tough.
Yeah. Have you considered utilizing the space on the north side of the building rather than taking these really primo parking spaces?
So it's just too hard for this. That's like 3 different dining areas, because then we have the ones in front, then ones on the side, and then the inside dining, and it's just too hard to give a really good service. It's have everyone everywhere. We got to go around and then in the front and then inside. We did do it before. It was just quite difficult on the staff.
Yeah, and do you think that with the 9 tables on the sidewalk, the 8 tables in the parking space area, that you're going to be like having strong use of all these spaces?
Oh yeah, no,
on
I
every
think
night?
it gives a great vibe to the downtown area, and it's just way more lively. Yeah, I mean we filled it quite frequently. we had a lot of use for it the last 2 years. Even the year that it was on the side, it was almost too much because we didn't know what to expect, and then it was on the
Right.
side. It was a little difficult. Yeah.
So the sidewalk tables would remain?
Yes, sir.
These are in addition.
Mhm.
Is there enough space there for access, for wheelchair access, et cetera? With the tables?
Within the seating
sidewalk?
area
Yeah,
or the sidewalk itself,
yeah.
we will be enforcing and making sure that the sidewalk clearance is maintained, not just outside of Valor, but throughout the downtown, throughout the summer. So staff is taking a renewed approach to that.
And there is access to the proposed dining area. You can see it a bit in this image on the screen. I'll orient you to the kind of the top left portion. There's that is an angled ramp near those hashed off areas. It is not a handicap parking space, but that is a ramp. So there is access into that area from the sidewalk as well. And we would work with the Ballard team to make sure that that remains open.
Any other?
I have one other quick question. When you approached us, there was a question, I forget what somebody asked, but you indicated you have to ask the owners. Are you here as an owner representative?
Just
or
a representative for the team. The owner couldn't make it, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure why they requested the Jersey barriers to be paid for. But you guys, I was just here to answer any questions and
Yeah.
help as much as I could with just understanding the structure.
Thank you.
One thing I'm all for bringing as much activity into town as possible. But Gail has a good point in my mind that it's not open all day. Is there a goal of getting open during the day?
Yeah, sure. It's just, and like I mentioned, just staff's really hard to find. So to even have a server, it's just been really tough with staff.
I mean, because the other restaurants have been able to do it.
Yeah.
So, you know, is it harder for you guys to hire somebody relative to the other places?
I mean,
Would it start, say, on the weekends first, or Friday, Thursday?
yeah, it would be like a Friday, Saturday thing, but
And as staff allows, and then you go to
maybe increase it. Yeah, I think the first 4 years we were open for lunch and dinner, but since the pandemic, we've kind of cut back on lunch.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? And if not, is there a motion to approve going forward with the license agreement for Valor for outdoor dining on the village right-of-way with 4 spots, but carving out and not approving paying for the Jersey barriers so that this is consistent with what we've done with other comparable restaurants, particularly Glencoe.
And it's for a year.
It's all, this is all.
Just through
for a year.
October 3rd.
3rd.
This is
It's
through
all for a
October
year.
3rd. They've only asked to utilize it because there's no structure that's associated with this.
With all those conditions, I would. Oh, wait.
When does this go to the plan commission?
This would not go to the plan commission.
So it's an administrative review of the plan?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So this would be a license agreement with Valor.
Just now that we have this clause, the motion should include the direction to the manager to execute a license agreement.
With the provisions that have been.
Provisions that have been discussed.
And if I may, to clarify, I think I'm hearing that the board's direction is that we would bill for the Jersey barrier, but we may still provide it, or we would not provide it.
No, as long as we're not out of pocket, I mean, we can,
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
We have
That's
the
what I thought I
ability
was
to work
hearing.
through either of those alternatives.
Yes, that's what I thought I was hearing, but I wanted to make certain
So
so we
long
could
as
draft it
the
appropriately.
village is not providing it at no cost.
Correct.
Second.
So then I would move to issue a directive for the village manager to move ahead with this as planned, including the restriction, or the village not paying for the barriers. Is that good? Okay.
and is there a second?
Second.
Okay, let's have a roll call.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listener.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney.
No.
Trustee Onderdonk.
Yes.
Trustee Rubin?
Yes.
Trustee Vree?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. And thank you for presenting for Valor. The next item on the agenda is consideration of a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Northfield for shared usage of water meter antennas on our water tower.
So I'm going to take this one, President Rowan. This is a good news story, and you had asked that it be placed on the regular agenda so that we could talk a bit about the fact that this is how governments should work together. The Village of Northfield approached us several months ago seeking the possibility of installing their own equipment that would service a new water metering system that they were installing, and they were seeking the permission to potentially place that equipment on the village's water tank that exists on Frontage Road. In the course of those discussions, it was determined that they were planning to install identical water meters to what the Village of Glencoe had installed in 2020 and 2021. And one conversation led to another about the possibility of utilizing the village's already installed infrastructure to service both Glencoe and Northfield. A propagation study was done to ensure that such a thing was possible. And in fact, the two antennas that the village has in place, one that exists on the water tank and the other that is in downtown Glencoe at the Public Works building, would both serve Northfield completely. So in the course of those discussions, we set forth to try to draft an intergovernmental agreement that would provide for a cost share between the Village of Glencoe and Northfield. Obviously, the installation of our equipment was paid for in whole by the village back in 2020. And what this IGA essentially proposes is that Northfield would contribute 50% of the cost of the installation of those two antennas, as well as 50% of the cost of this year's maintenance and what is the, sorry, Alex, what's the R&I, that's right. And that the agreement, which would be in place for 10 years, would essentially cover the cost of 50% of those R&I charges through the course of the agreement, as well as split 50-50 any replacements of the existing antenna or maintenance or upgrades that would be necessary during the course of the agreement. The Village of Northfield considered this at their board meeting on Tuesday night, very enthusiastically supported it, and did so with great gratitude to the Village of Glencoe, as this is saving them a considerable amount of money and time, and it frankly has an equal benefit to the Village of Glencoe in saving us a significant amount of money during the course of this agreement, well over approximately $150,000. So we are, staff is enthusiastically also recommending the board's consideration of this intergovernmental agreement with our neighbor, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Alex is here as well. He was working on this with me, if there are any.
I have a couple of quick comments.
Sure.
I'd like to make sure that we don't have liability if something does go wrong with these antennas and they don't receive their data, that we are not held responsible for their lack of data or billing abilities.
That is my understanding, that the system would be functional, and if there was something that went down, it would likewise be going down for us. So we would be working together to reestablish those connections, but there is not a liability that's placed upon us from that standpoint.
I just want to make sure, because ultimately I think they'll say we're the owners of this system, right? It's our system, although they are partially paying for it. I don't want to be held liable for a failure that results in cost for them.
There is an indemnification that's
Correct.
built into this by Northfield to the Village of Glencoe.
Great. The other thing is just the expectation. If their expectation is that our network will serve their entire community, if their community changes or they find that, you know, the propagation study wasn't exactly quite right, that we are not on the hook to make them whole for their metering system. If there's gaps in their coverage, that's not on us.
That, I believe, is the expectation.
And there's nothing that says that it is.
Right.
There's no representation by Glencoe in this agreement that that the system will serve their town. They're making their own determination.
Correct.
Those are both good questions, and glad we have our lawyer here to answer them.
The agreement was drafted by us on our form, but we worked with the.
Definitely questionable. Just kidding. I said it was definitely questionable. When you said you drafted, I thought, oh my God, now
Anybody else have any questions about this before the motion? Let me say, we are grateful that we could help. We're glad we could help and work with Northfield. We're grateful we could get this done, and I hope, as Louis said, for now it was actually the Humphrey Bogart character, Rick Blaine. I hope this is the start of a beautiful friendship. So is there a motion to approve proceeding with the intergovernmental agreement?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Hallwax.
Yes.
Trustee Listener.
Yes.
Trustee Mulvaney.
Yes.
Trustee Onderdonk. Trustee Rubin.
Yes.
Trustee Bree.
Yes.
The motion carries. So it's approved. Thank you. So that's the last item on the agenda. The next item is closed session. I don't think we have one tonight. So if there's nothing else, it's 8:35. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do we need a roll call for this? Voice vote. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.